Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Damien with White Belt Goons. Listen, the other day, I think it was actually last week, I put up a post on BJJ Fanatics. If you're not on the BJJ Fanatics Facebook page, you're missing out. There's always so much great information on there. But I put up a post on there basically talking about mat anxiety. So as a guy who's over the age of 40, who deals with depression, who deals with functioning anxiety, I have a lot of mental health issues, a lot of things that I'm dealing with. But one of the things that I noticed early on in starting jiu-jitsu, as much fun as I have, as much as I enjoy seemingly every aspect about jiu-jitsu, I would have this anxiety. I would have anxiety before going to practice. There were times where I would be so excited. I would wake up and I'd be like, hey, today is going to be a jiu-jitsu day. And I would go throughout my entire day thinking about, submissions I wanted to try and get off that day, or thinking about, sweeps or things that we practiced in the previous training session. And then right when it was time to get off of work, go home, grab the bag and head to the gym, I would get this feeling of anxiety. Now, I suffer from anxiety all the time anyway. So I had a really hard time kind of validating and quantifying or understanding why I was having this anxiety issue. So I basically put up a post about this on the BJJ Fanatics page. And it was crazy how many people commented. Now, it's not uncommon for a situation where you put up a post like that and fellow white belts or fellow people, who are new to grappling are like, yeah, I deal with the same thing. But there were actually purple belts and even a couple black belts who commented and said, yeah, dude, I deal with this all the time. There were people that commented and said, yeah, I have problems walking into the gym. There were people who said, I have this exact same situation. I have the exact same circumstance when I think about competition. So it really got me thinking, this is not something that is specific to me. This is not something that is just relegated to white belts. This is something that a lot of people, definitely people over the age of 40, men over the age of 40, but a lot of people in general suffer from with jiu-jitsu. So I went back through all these comments, and I had put this post up on, I think, 3 or 4 different message boards. And I went through all the comments and I tried to kind of gather the top 5 reasons that everybody was saying were their issues with their own anxiety. So in no particular order, these are the 5 things, okay? The first one was fear of injury. Most people were like, my biggest fear is that I'm going to get hurt. Now, I think for men over the age of 40, it's an issue where we know that as much as we love jiu-jitsu, as much fun as we have doing jiu-jitsu, as much as we want to advance in jiu-jitsu, we realize that the world doesn't stop and the bills don't stop because we decided to get into jiu-jitsu, right? Anything that happens that takes us out of work, anything that happens that puts us in a situation where we can't provide for our families, clearly that is going to be catastrophic from the perspective of the injury and catastrophic from the perspective of our livelihood. So that was one of the major issues. Number 4, and again, these are in no particular order. Number 4 was a fear of looking bad, right? Not necessarily looking bad, but looking inept or looking stupid. A lot of people just felt like, man, I go in, I'm over 40, I'm out of shape, I'm overweight, I'm in a class with all of these younger guys, I'm in a class with all of these more athletic people, and they're asking me to do all of these intricate moves or asking me to do, these weird warm-ups, and I feel stupid, right? That was one of the things that so many people said. I just feel stupid, right? The third thing was the pace, the pressure, and the pain. Let me say this again. The pace, the pressure, and the pain of rolling with those younger, more capable, more athletic people. The second, number 2, what was number 2? Number 2 was not being able to measure up to the coach's expectations. Now, I thought this was really interesting because it really came down to the fact that most people who are doing jiu-jitsu are at programs where there's no curriculum that's laid out. And since there's no curriculum that's laid out, you have people that are over the age of 40, right? Who in every other endeavor, whether it's work, whether it's, if you go back to school, whatever it is, there's generally, we call them KPIs, right? Like key performance indicators at work. If you want to become a manager, or if you want to get a raise, if you want to move up the corporate ladder, there's generally a very laid out path for you to accomplish that. And jiu-jitsu is completely the opposite of that. It's just, hey, come in, pay your money, show up, and then at some point in time, the jiu-jitsu gods will bless you with a blue belt, or they'll bless you with an extra stripe, or you'll move up. So a lot of guys, they were saying they didn't quite feel comfortable in that environment of not knowing what it was that they needed to do to be successful in order to move up. The last thing, number one, was just a general anxiety that people couldn't pinpoint, right? There was a lot of people that were like, look, man, I can't really tell you what it is. It's definitely not a fear of rolling. It's definitely not a fear of not understanding, because at my school there is a curriculum. It's definitely not a fear of injury, because I don't really feel that. It's just general anxiety. And my feeling on the people who just have a undiagnosed general anxiety, it comes from all of the stress of life, right? Your work life, your home life, bills, the fucking economy, gas being $6 a gallon. And my conjecture is that when a lot of us go to jiu-jitsu, if you're just a normal man who's working your job and taking care of your family, when you get to jiu-jitsu at the end of the day, that's probably the first time in your day where everything is quiet. And when everything's quiet, this undiagnosed anxiety that's in the background, that's the first time that it's kind of settling into your mind and settling into your heart. And so that, to me, is probably why people feel that undiagnosed anxiety in that situation. So what do we do in this situation? How do we handle it, right? Well, I've been going to the gym for 2 years now. I think that I'm fairly close to my blue belt, hopefully. And I've dealt with all of these issues. I suffer from depression and I have horrible anxiety. So how have I dealt with all of these 5 things? And I have dealt with all of these 5 things myself. Well, the fear of injury. Guys, look, there's no way that we can guarantee that we're not going to get hurt, right? But we can minimize it. You can minimize it by the same thing that people always say: choosing the people that you roll with, choosing the intensity that you roll with, choosing the style of jiu-jitsu that you do. Guys, I would love to invert and do all of these leg entanglements and do all these cool cartwheel passes and things that I see. I'm 223 pounds. I used to be 272 pounds. I play a big man's game. Yep, I am going to butterfly sweep you. I'm going to get to side control. I'm going to get to top mount. I'm going to start spamming Americanas, right? Like, I'm keeping it very, very simple. And also, I understand my limitations. Like, I am not going to allow myself to try and push past certain areas of a Kimura, certain areas of an Americana or an armbar myself. You have to be smart about how you train, right? In terms of not understanding the path, or there not being a path, we have to be honest, guys. Look, it's our journey in jiu-jitsu, and there are so many different types of programs that are out there. If you're the kind of person that wants a clear, articulated path from point A to point B, you can go to gyms like Gracie University. Some people will say, fuck Gracie University. Like, that's not the way that you should do jiu-jitsu. You should just go and grind it out, and you should just earn that belt. You shouldn't get stripes for the amount of classes that you go to. You shouldn't get a belt based on this or based on that. But for the people who are making the decision and paying their money, if that's what you want to do, you can choose your own adventure. And that's one way that you can do that. If that is truly a stressor. I have a friend, someone who I'm pretty close to, that was a non-negotiable for him. He wanted to know, when will I get my stripes? How do I get my belt? What do I have to do? So he started going to a Gracie University. In terms of worrying about the pressure or the pace, again, you can choose and dictate who you roll with, within reason, right? some of the drills or situationals that you do in your gym, you're going to have to go with maybe who your coach puts you with. But in terms of your open mat rolling or your sparring and things like that, you have more say so than you think. You can always tell your partner, hey man, I can only go 50%. I can only go 60%. The way that you rolled me in the past was a little bit too aggressive. Like, you have to stick up for yourself and you have to advocate for yourself. But by doing that, you can alleviate one of those issues. The general anxiety of things that are happening in your life outside that are causing problems for you on the mat potentially, those are things that we have to deal with. And one of the things that I've learned through jiu-jitsu is that I have to create space, right? I've got to put frames in and create space. And that's been the biggest lesson that I've had to learn in life. There are so many aspects outside of the gym in my life that put a lot of pressure on me, right? But the lesson that I've learned from jiu-jitsu is like, look, man, if you can get a frame in, if you can just hip out, you can get that knee shield in, you can create that frame, give yourself a little bit of space, you give yourself a little bit of time. And if you give yourself a little bit of space and time, you can find a way out. And I've done that. I've done that with my finances. I've done that with my kids who I have issues with. I've done that with other family members that, maybe their relationships aren't where they're supposed to be. So by taking some of those lessons that I've learned in jiu-jitsu and applying those to my actual life, I've created a little bit of space, and it's taken some of that overall anxiety that I feel outside of the gym, and it's kind of dissipated it. So think about that. I think that was everything. What was it? Fear of injury. So we talked about just choosing your partners, the issue of the path, right? You can choose gyms that give you more of a direct path and give you more of an understanding of what you're going to do or what needs to be done to advance. We talked about the anxiety that comes from rolling, right? You can talk to your partners. You can kind of set your own journey and create more of a situation for yourself that works for you. And then we talked about the outside, but there was one more. What was the other one? What was the other one? It was the path. It was the path. It was rolling with partners. It was fear of injury. It was anxiety. God, I can't remember. There was one more thing and I can't remember what it was. But here's the thing, guys. Look, the overall message, you're in charge. At the end of the day, as much as we love this sport, we're paying to do this. And we're putting time that we could be investing into anything else, right? So we have to find ways to enjoy it. We have to find ways to get the most out of it for ourselves. And I truly believe that if you just figure out what it is that's creating that anxiety, there is an answer. Just like everything else in jiu-jitsu, right? No matter what's happening to you at that moment, there is an answer. You might not know it. You might not be far enough along in your journey to be able to pull it off, but there is an answer to whatever you're dealing with. Just get those frames in, create some space, figure out the escape, okay? And you can figure out the escape to mat anxiety. You just got to figure out what's causing it, all right? I would love to know your comments. Let me know what you guys think about this. Do you suffer from mat anxiety? And if you do, what are you doing to fix it? And if you used to, when you don't anymore, what did you do to address your mat anxiety? I would love to know. As always, I appreciate you guys being here. I have got to get inside for work. I got another shift coming up. I got to go. But as always, I appreciate you guys being here, listening to me rant, listening to me ramble. Please like, share, and subscribe, and come back for the next video. You guys be great. Take care.